You ready?
No, but I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
Hi guys, I'm Lynn,
And I'm Jonathan.
and we are
Create and Capture Life. Yeah, okay, we've tried.
We did it one week, and now you
okay.
just don't try.
Well, I try sometimes.
Welcome to week 11 of our 1 year to RV, full-time RVing journey. Wow, that's like a tongue twister. This week we're going to talk about a couple things, and at the end we will announce who won the portable hard drive. And remember, to be entered to win, you had to follow us on Instagram, follow us on here, and subscribe here on YouTube, and make a comment on our video, either last week's or the week before. So we had a good number of entries for our channel size, so that's good. So we'll announce it at the end. This week I did minimalize all of my Halloween decorations. That's I'm going to put that in here, and you may be watching it actually now as I'm talking about it. But I minimalized all of the Halloween decorations from inside and outside down to 2 boxes that we're going to keep because they're all RV friendly, mostly little like orange lights and little things that I had around the house and outside that we'll be able to use with the RV, because we plan on being here in California for Halloween always. So we'll be parked at a RV park here during Halloween, so I figure we'll just put those 2 boxes in storage and we can just come get them, because we'll be here anyway. And the rest, I'm gonna see if anybody, my sister or sister-in-law, want any of these decorations, and if they don't, they'll be in our garage sale or get donated depending on what they are. So that's Halloween, and now the house is decorated, lightly decorated for Thanksgiving. But we don't do Thanksgiving here, my sister does it, so
So we don't have to worry about decorating
so
too
I
much.
have little decorations up, but I didn't go hog wild on Thanksgiving, but I do go hog wild at Christmas, so you guys will see that later. So
we had a couple of questions and a couple of things from some friends of ours that I wanted to just acknowledge. One of my friends, Tony, who works in the film and television department over at Disney Broadcast Services.
hopefully I'll see you next week.
Yep. Sent us both a lengthy email giving us some information, some tips and stuff like that from the viewer's point of view. Because obviously with us filming these things, and
We're really good at making other people look good on camera, lighting and everything else, because that's our job. And me as a photographer, I'm great at capturing people's best sides and all that kind of thing, but somehow we fail at
doing it ourselves,
lighting ourselves and making ourselves look great
and sound good and all that other stuff. So Tony, thank you for sending me the email. We've already started working on some stuff. I ordered 1 soft box for the LED light
on one of the lights.
Yep, the light that's right over the camera. And I'm gonna get another one. I just wanted to see and make sure it fit before I ordered the other one. But yep, thank you for that information. Thank you for that advice. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so on a more serious note, one of the big questions that we get asked all of the time is, you know, you both have really good jobs. You like your jobs. You love that house. That was your forever house. You rebuilt it yourself. Your families are here in California. Your jobs are here in California. All your ties are here in California. At least my immediate family. The rest of my family's in the Midwest, or now in Florida. A couple of them just moved to Florida. So, you know, usually the answer is, well, you know, we just want the freedom. Life is short. If you watched our Who Are We video, I'll link that here. It explains a little bit of our decision making and things that have happened in our family in the last few years. But one of the things I've never addressed in public came up like 2 weeks ago. I have a therapist I've been seeing for about 2 years now. Well, actually, I have a therapist and a psychiatrist because I have severe PTSD. I'm probably gonna hem and haw a lot during this because I've never talked about this publicly. couple weeks ago I was talking to him, and my psychiatrist, and he knows all about our journey to RV living, and I've talked to him about it since day one and before we even started YouTube about our ideas and what we were going to do. And a couple weeks ago when I talked to him, he asked me to really search my heart and be sure that for me, I was not using this as a way to run away from the city we live in and this area because of what happened. And it kind of knocked me for a loop because I had never thought about that maybe I was going along with what Jonathan wanted to do because for me it was a way to escape what happened here. And so I've been thinking a lot about that last couple of weeks, and Jonathan and I've talked about it, and I'm sure that that's not what I'm doing, because I do love being on the road and I love traveling and I love the freedom and all those things. I do, but I had to think about it. So I'm going to give you a little backstory of what happened and why that question would come up. But Jonathan and I both volunteer a lot.
Yep.
We volunteer our time, our resources, our talents in photography and lighting and audio and things to various different organizations. We always have. It's just something we've always done, and especially in the city we live in, we volunteer a lot, or used to. And we were both, along with a friend of ours, on a board for about 8 years for a huge event in our city. It happens once a year. The day before the event happened 2 years ago, the chairperson of the event, I'm just gonna say, I'll call him Matt for this because I don't want to say his name because I just don't need any more drama from him. I'll say Matt. Attempted to physically assault me. Very good friend of mine who was also on the board stopped him. Jonathan wasn't near the vicinity when it happened. He was on the same property, but he wasn't in the area where this happened. And I left there in tears, completely shaken, had to call my son to pick me up. I'm not going to go into the gory details of everything that happened, but basically I left there in tears. I reported it to the city because this event happens on city property, and I'm friends with all the people in the city. And so I reported to them, and I was in tears, and I called my son because I had driven with my friend, and Jonathan had driven separate with audio gear, and I had no way to leave. So I called my son, Ryan, and in tears, and he picked me up. And when he got there and I told him what happened, his immediate reaction was to jump out of my car because he drives my car. He jumped out of my car and was going to go look for Matt. And I stopped him and I said, no, I just want to go home. Like, I just want to get out of here. And I was hysterically crying, and I had my stuff and I left. The next day was the event. Later that day, I had decided, that's it, I'm not going to the event tomorrow. I don't want to be near this person. I don't I'm scared to death. Like, I was just shaken. And Jonathan and my friend, and I'm not gonna say his name because I haven't asked him if it's okay, so I don't want to say his name on YouTube, but he knows who he is. They came to our house. Jonathan came home and our friend came over, and the three of us sat down and talked, and they talked me into still doing the event the next day because I was the treasurer and I was in charge of a lot of really big things that day. So I said, that's fine. I'll do the event if I'm with one of you all day. If I'm not by myself at all during the day, then I'll just do the event because I felt a sense of responsibility to do the event. So I did it.
And she basically stayed with me and all of my friends for a significant part of the day at the stage. I was running the stage, and a lot of my friends were all there.
And everybody knew what had happened of our friends, yeah. Because we live in Orange County, but we live in what would be considered a small town where everybody knows everybody, yeah. And news travels fast.
And all of my guys that were there, all of my friends that were there, were all techs that all work with me, and there was not even any chance that anything was going to happen around any of us. So that's...
And then when I needed to leave the stage area to go do things on the kids area and different areas that I was in charge in, or if I needed to deliver a check to somebody or whatever as the treasurer, our other friend went with me. So I was never alone that day. And I got through the event, and I just kind of was like, okay, it's done. And the event happens in July, and we don't meet again as a board until September. And that's when we do kind of our wrap-up meeting and kind of discuss what worked and what didn't at the event and like that kind of thing. So in between the event and September, Jonathan, our friend, and I had meetings with the city because Matt had gone after Jonathan via emails and different things in the past and yelled and screamed at Jonathan before, and then he had gone after my friend or our friend and yelled and screamed at him and called him names and stuff before. And then when he physically tried to attack me, we reported all of this to the city. We sat down with the city and reported all of this and said, this is ridiculous. This happens on your property. How can you not do something about this? And their answer was, well, the entity that you're a part of is not part of the city. It's a nonprofit that runs this event. It's just done on city property. But we will try to back you up. Okay, so we went to the wrap-up meeting in September, and I reported to the entire board, including the city officials that were there, with Jonathan and our friend sitting on either side of me. I told them everything that had happened. I was in tears at the meeting. Matt and his friend, who was Secretary Tracy, not her name, but I'm going to say Tracy, scoffed at it. The other men on the board scoffed at me. I just wasn't expecting that kind of reaction to people that I'd been on a board with for 8 years and people we had called friends for 8 years. I wasn't expecting that kind of reaction from people that you thought were your friends. But it was like a boys club. There was only 2 women on the board, me and this person, Tracy. And so, long story short on that meeting, I left the meeting in tears because I had to work at Disney that night. So I couldn't stay for the whole meeting. I stayed for my part to give my treasurer's report and to make open what had happened to me and all of that. And I left in tears because nothing was resolved. I was scoffed at, eyes rolled, like all of that kind of thing. And I left there in tears and didn't know what happened after I left. Jonathan called me later while I was at work and said that he and our friend had both quit the board because of the outcome. So I hadn't quit because I had left, and I kind of felt a sense of responsibility as the treasurer, and I knew I wasn't going to see these people, right? I mean, I wasn't going to see them. So I said, okay, like, I totally respect your decision to quit, and I'm going to stick out my year, which would be January, and we don't meet again until January anyway, so I'll just stick it out and see what happens, and maybe they'll make a good decision and get rid of this person, and if they do, then we'll stay. And if, they could come, Jonathan and our friend could come back, and I would stay if they made the right decision. In January, they had their meeting. I had pneumonia, full-blown pneumonia. I was in bed for weeks. I messaged everybody on the board and said I wouldn't be attending the January meeting. I sent my year-end reports. I did everything I was supposed to do from a board member standpoint, as far as here's your treasurer's report, here's your year-end recap, here's everything you need to know for January, but I can't come to the meeting because I have pneumonia. A day or two?
Maybe.
A day or two after that meeting, I got an email saying that Matt had kicked me off the board. So not only did no one stand up for me, but now Matt, the person who had done this, kicked me off the board. I had been on for 8 years. And
it wasn't even just straight kicked off the board. He called it to a vote, and Tracy seconded it, and they made a unanimous decision to kick her off. So,
well, there was abstentions, but
the
boys
true.
club decided, I was just more trouble than I was worth, basically.
Yep.
So Jonathan, I had talked about it, and I said, well, you know what, if maybe it's the right thing. Maybe it's better, we'll just cut our ties and we'll just move on.
Well, that's what you'd hope.
Yeah, it didn't stop there. Matt was so, and Tracy, for some reason, they were so mad that I had reported him, and he's very well connected in our city, that this is when the harassment started. I started getting emails, phone calls, text messages, Facebook messages every single day, and multiple times a day, either from Matt or Tracy or from one of my friends or someone else in the community that would call me and say, oh my God, I heard that you stole things from the festival, that they kicked you off because you stole things. I heard that you lied about Matt. I heard this, I heard that. It was just every day. Like I said, we live in kind of a small town where, you know, we go to the grocery store and we run into people that we know, and we both own businesses here, and we know a lot of people in the community, and a lot of people know each other. I couldn't leave the house without hearing about this. Oh, I heard you got a subpoena and that you ignored it. That was told to me by one of our city council members. Hey, this person called me and said, who I've been friends with for 20 plus years, called me and said, hey, Tracy was talking about you at this other public event in the city and telling another city council person that they had subpoenaed you and you ignored the subpoena. Is that true? What? I'm on the phone with him and I was like, well, first of all, you can't ignore a subpoena. So if they had subpoenaed me for some reason, I wouldn't ignore it. And second of all, no, that never happened. Then I got sent meeting minutes from someone who wanted me to see what was in the meeting minutes of the meetings I hadn't been going to. And every meeting, I was a topic of conversation. That I was a liar, that I was saying all these things that weren't true, that he had done. This Tracy was sticking up for him 120%, which I don't understand. All, of course, the other men in the group. And I'm not a man basher by any stretch of the imagination, so don't take that wrong. It was all victim blaming. It was my fault. I made it up. I'm making a bigger deal out of it than it is. You're making something out of nothing. You're just being drama, like all these things. Jonathan was hearing it. They were saying I stole paperwork. I stole money. At one point I heard that I stole money. It was just one thing after another. And when they realized after about a few months of harassing me that I wasn't going to answer them back, they started harassing my friend and saying that he kept his paperwork, that he didn't turn over stuff, and they were demanding that he give them property that belonged to this event. And he repeatedly emailed them back and said, I don't have anything. At one point, he even told them, you want to come search my house? Go ahead. I don't have anything. I don't have anything. I gave it all to you guys. Now, I know he gave it to them because it was in person. He gave it to them in person. There's no question that it was given to them. And when it came to my books, one of the people in the city that was on my side of the situation said, look, pack all your books in a box, seal the box, address it to Tracy. We'll have her pick it up. We'll be the witness that she picked it up. So I know that she picked it up, and I have an inventory of what was in the box. She claims stuff was missing from the box. I didn't give them this. I didn't give them that. And slowly, I didn't realize it, but it changed who I was, and I didn't even see it. I stopped going out. I started making excuses not to go out. It started affecting my business because people weren't calling me to do photography in the city because they had heard all these things about me. So it hurt my business. And I just stopped going out. And I would stay, and Jonathan would leave for work in the morning, and I'd be in bed, and he'd come home, and I'd be in bed.
And that's when we really started to realize that there was a problem. And fortunately, Lynn was able to talk to her doctor, make some phone calls, and, you know, get the help that she needed. You know, and it's a struggle still every day. There's days where, you know, we have a conversation about stuff, you know, and I'll realize that, you know, she didn't forget to go to the grocery store. She didn't forget to go to these places. You know, she had a little bit of a hard time leaving the house. You know, so I know that there's days where she has, you know, a tough time going out. You know, it's not that she, you know, she'll tell me that she forgot, but I know. You know, it's she just.
I don't say that anymore. I used to say that I forgot, but now I just tell them I
just can't go out.
I couldn't do it today. I couldn't go out.
Yeah, and I totally understand. You know, psychology. Which is the one that's the one that you talk to?
It's my psychiatrist.
Yeah, the psychiatrist has actually been really good for her. He's been helping her out. He's the one that actually identified the PTSD. And has been really helping her, you know, cope with it. And, you know,
in my first meeting with him, when I was laying out all these things to him that I wasn't going anywhere and I didn't want to go anywhere, and if I did go somewhere, I didn't want to go by myself, and I wasn't sleeping at night, and I would cry at the drop of a pin, which is so not me. Like right now I'm starting to cry and it's just not who I was before. It was almost like I was telling him all these things, but it wasn't me telling him, because as I'm saying those things to him, I'm thinking, God, this is so not me. And then he's said to me, have you ever heard of PTSD? And I said, of course I have. I have friends in the military and like that kind of thing. Of course I've heard of PTSD. And he said, well, you have it. You have very bad PTSD. And I was like, what? So I take medicine for it. And I still can't sleep. It's been a couple years. I have better days and bad days. Things were getting a lot better a few months ago, and then because the harassment continued for over a year, it just didn't stop. And right about the time we would think it was stopping, something else would happen. Jonathan and I went to the post office one day. Just this year, we went to the post office, and I went in the post office and he was on the phone, so he stayed in the car. And when I went to the post office, I'm standing in line at the post office, and someone came up behind me and said my name, and I turned around and it was somebody from that group, and who was telling me that now they were going after him because he disagreed with something that Matt had said and that Tracy wanted, and so they were going after him, and that he believed me now, that of all the things they were capable of, which for him, I feel bad for him that they're going after him. I think it sucks that it took something like that for him to believe me. But at the same time, it just brought it back up again. Like I just was trying to go to the post office, and then I went to the car and I got in the car and I told Jonathan, the one time you didn't go in the post office with me, this happened. And he's like, Jesus. And just a couple months ago, my phone started blowing up, and I don't answer numbers I don't know. I let them go to voicemail. It was somebody else from this group started to call me, asking me about some email address that I had no knowledge of, and left me a voicemail about it, demanding that I give him this password that I didn't have and I had no access to. I didn't even know this email address existed. I hadn't even been in this group for over 2 years. So I didn't call him back. He started calling Jonathan. So he starts calling Jonathan's phone. And one day after, how many times had he called you?
I don't even remember.
He called him so many times and called me so many times. I finally told Jonathan, just answer your phone. Just get him out of our lives. I cannot keep jumping every time my phone rings. I've been through this too long.
So basically, I told him, I was like, look, here's the deal. She doesn't have any of this information. And I said, I don't know if you're aware of what happened or not. I said, and I kind of laid out a little bit of what happened. And I said, let me ask you. I said, you're married. If that had happened to your wife, I said, what sort of thoughts would you have in your head about him calling me, asking me for this information? I said, if all that happened to you, would you be okay with someone from that organization still trying to get in contact with you and harassing your wife? And he agreed with me, and he said that he was not aware, which maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. Who knows? I doubt that he wasn't aware.
No, I doubt he wasn't. I think he was just playing dumb.
Yeah, but he said, I don't disagree with you. He says, I will never call you again. And
so far he hasn't.
He hasn't. So.
So as much as I want to get over this, every time I think I'm turning a corner, one of these people jumps back into our life in one way or another. They either randomly, someone will come up to me and say something, they'll say something to Jonathan. All these, it's just crazy. And I don't volunteer anymore for anything. I actually received the Volunteer of the Year award for our city because I volunteered so much, and now I don't volunteer for anything. I pretty much stay home. I run errands when I feel up to it, or if I have to. I'll usually take Ryan with me, or Jonathan will go with me. I will go by myself occasionally if I just feel like I can. I will. But it's still hard. And so that's why the question came up from my psychiatrist. Are you sure you're not agreeing to RV life just because you're trying to run away from this situation and get out of this city? And I thought about it for a couple of days before I mentioned it to Jonathan. And then one night we were sitting here at dinner at the table, and I said, here's what he said. And here's what I think and what do you think, and we talked about it, and that's not why I'm making this decision. But I did think about it, and we talked about it because I wanted to be sure. I didn't want for him to be right and for me to be making this decision to run away from this situation, because then later I'm not going to be happy that we did it. You know, I might be on the road and be unhappy, and I don't want that. I know this has kind of gone long, but that's the short version of the story. There's a whole lot more to go into, and I don't know. My glasses are steaming up. But I know I'm not making the wrong decision. I know it's not to run away. I did think about it after he mentioned that, and I know I'm not running away. It is something I want to do, and it's something we want to do as a family, along with Ryan. And so yeah, if you're considering RV life, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. And you know, I had to make sure in this last couple of weeks that I was making this decision for the right reason and not just to run away. And I'm confident now that I'm not running away, because this is something we've talked about and loved doing before all of this other drama happened in our lives. And so yeah, it's been a tough couple weeks, because as I'm going through all these things, Jonathan's been working more and it's been tough, but I think we're making the right decision.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm running away. I did for about 10 minutes really think about it, and then I realized, no, this was in our minds before all of this, like I said. So that's part of the story.
Yep. So, but I want to, you know, let you guys know, if you are, and I know a few of you guys have reached out before about different things we've mentioned about our videos. But if you're dealing with a situation, if you're dealing with anything PTSD, if you've ever, you know, been the victim of an assault or anything, you know, get help, please. And if you need advice, if you need to talk to us, you know, feel free to reach out. You can reach out to me separately if you want. Yeah. As a woman, I'm totally willing to have, you know, if you need somebody to talk to. Yeah. I'm willing to listen. So I don't think any victim blaming and shaming and all those things. I mean, I've lost friends over this who have told me, friends of mine that have been my friends for over 20 years who are no longer my friend because they are part of this person. Like I said, Matt's very well connected in the city, and so is Tracy, and we were too at one point. And people started taking sides. There was like a boys club mentality where a really good friend of mine who, like I said, we've been friends for over 20 years, is no longer my friend because he said I was just making a big deal out of this. And it could, you know, worse things happen every day and blah, blah, blah. And I was just making more out of this than it was. And well, you know what? He wasn't there. And if my friend hadn't been there to step in, I don't know what would have happened. Jonathan doesn't know what would have happened. I know what could have happened. And I thank God every day for our friend stepping in. So don't be a victim to your own feelings about being victimized. And that's what I've had to learn, is that it's not my fault, and I didn't do anything to cause this. I didn't do anything except have him do what he did and then subsequently harass me and have his friends harass me for the last 2 years of my life because I reported it. Yeah. So it's not cool. Yeah. I'm not mentioning their real names because I just don't want more drama from them. So that's that. I'm sorry to leave this on kind of a bummer note, but I just felt like this has all come up in the last couple of weeks, and I just thought it was important to share the truth, our truth and my truth, as far as, you know, am I really doing this for the right reasons? And now I'm confident, now that we've talked about it, I am doing it for the right reasons, and we are doing it for the right reasons. And if you're making this decision, just make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Because like my doctor said, if you do something to run away from a situation, the situation's somehow gonna follow you. And I don't want that. Yep. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for following us on this journey. We really appreciate each and every one of you, your comments. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Like this video if you're inclined. Follow us on Instagram at Create and Capture Life. Have stuck it out to the end, and this is a long video, so we're apologizing, but Lynn really felt compelled this week to to tell her PTSD story, because you hear a lot of times people talk about PTSD, but you never really understand why they have PTSD. So we wanted to make sure that Lynn and you guys, Lynn was able to tell her story finally, and this is actually the first time that she's publicly telling her story. We've told the story a couple times with family and friends, but this is the first time she's publicly telling the story, so I'm proud of her for doing that. So I wanted her to have that time to get that story out there, and now you guys understand a little bit more about our background, so thank you for that. But we do want to announce that winner of the portable hard drive.
I'm crying now, so you can say it's right here. It's these two. This is the Instagram and this is the YouTube.
All right, so the winner, and Lynn will put the name down here somewhere when she's editing this. Oh man,
it's Kim Condra.
Condra, C-O-N-D-R-A, Kim Condra. And
on Instagram, the name is Kim Condra, and on YouTube, it's Bill and Kim Condra.
Rick.
Or Rick?
Yeah,
I can't see
Rick.
it. Rick and Kim Condra. Sorry, I'm looking. I can't see them.
And if we butchered your last name,
sorry. But you guys are the winners, and so we'll give you 48 hours from Friday. So we'll give you till the weekend to contact us via Instagram with how we can get you your portable hard drive.
Yeah.
And thank you guys again for watching. Thanks guys. Thanks for being here. This was week 11 and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.